Doing.
Okay. Well, we've
That's
got
already
two,
recorded.
we've got two otters going. So I don't know how that works. I'm hoping that I'll be able to record also. It says we're recording. Okay, good. Well, welcome everyone to the March 13th meeting of the ESRAG All Task Forces monthly meeting. For those new on the meeting, welcome to you all. We're really happy to have you here. And in the past, because we do now have nine task forces altogether to get through our reports. To save time, what I'm suggesting is that everyone just put their name, your club, your task force, your district, and your country in the chat. So if everyone can just sort of sign in on the chat, that'll save us a little bit of time because we start running out of time at the end of the meeting with these task forces, and we have a lot of really interesting stuff to cover today and some great reports. So for those I haven't met, that haven't met me, my name's Doug White. I'm the ESRAG Task Force Coordinator in the Projects Division, and I'd like to welcome you all. And starting out, we'll just moving right along, we'll start out with announcements, and our illustrious Laurie Zuckerman, our wonderful chair of our director of communications for ESRAG, has some really great information that she'd like to share with us for a while. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to her before we get into our task force updates.
Illustrious or anything. I mean, our group, the task forces, I mean, this is where leadership comes from. This is anyway. So it's always like coming home to be here. So I would like to offer something to you, and I'm hoping, after I explain it, you'll all say yes.
Truck time with Sally.
One of the
District
problems
7150.
Oh,
Hi,
Chuck,
Chuck, would you mind muting? Hi, Chuck, would you mind muting? So one of the challenges we have in ESRAG is that because we're remote, everybody's working all over the world and nobody's really seeing what each other is doing because we don't bump into each other in the office, we don't have that common office space. And so what communications started at the beginning of this fiscal year is I send out a list of when all our weekly meetings are, that communications and communications related meetings are, to our communications team and the board. And what we found happened as we did that is like all of a sudden the board members were like, I had no idea you guys were doing so much work. Your task forces need that too. And so I would love it if, and I can send this into an email to all of you, when you have a task force meeting, the Thursday or Friday before the week when you're having the meeting, if you would send me that meeting information, I'm going to include it in that email that goes out to communications, to the board members, and also to you, so that you get this email, and the top of it is going to have one of I bet you guys didn't raise your hand if you know that ESRAG has 6 values. Yay, a few of you knew that. ESRAG has 6 values. So each month we focus on a different value as opposed to the themes. These are the values. So the top of it has whatever the value that we're thinking about that month is, and some examples from stories or tips. And then below that is all these meetings. And it really helps us keep in mind just all the fantastic work we're doing. It gives us visibility. So I'd like a vote of hands or thumbs up. Thumbs up if you would like to be part of this, to send this out to the board members and to, each other. How many say yes? How many say no, they don't want that? Okay, great. Then I will email you and show you because it's got to be in a certain format to keep me from being crazy. And I'm also going to ask you to be thinking about this month is on care and compassion. Love the task forces because you are all about care and compassion. I mean, every one of you, you guys just exude it in your teams. And so I'd love to get some good stories about how you show care and compassion to your small teams, to each other in your communities. And so that will be our newsletter. Okay, so there's that. The second thing is we are finding that some of the chapters are just exploding with work. And Ariel can find the stories like that. She just goes to the chapter, the WhatsApp chapter pages and finds all sorts of good news. And we can broadcast that and grow ESRAG. So we take those things that are happening, the little conversations, and then broadcast it out to the Rotary world. So when I email you, if you could also email back with your WhatsApp number, if you feel comfortable with that, so that we can keep in contact with each other quickly and easily. So the newsletter, and then the option for being part of a WhatsApp group for for task forces. Questions?
Lori? Did you say that the care and compassion is the value theme for the April newsletter? Or was it March?
No, it's not for the newsletter. This is just that in my little communication world, I'm staying in my lane, guys. I'm staying in my lane. I'm just asking you to join my lane. I tend to have each month I focus on a different one. So this month in March, we're doing care and compassion.
March.
And next month, we'll talk about leadership.
Okay.
Leadership tips.
And then when you say WhatsApp group, do you want us to just include you in our task force WhatsApp groups, or you have a
If you have
separate...
a task force group, that's great. Please do. But you know what would be even better? I was hoping we would have an all task force WhatsApp group so that Ariel and our regional reporters can be part of that. Because then they can broadcast all the good things you're doing and you can share with each other because your stuff does overlap.
Okay, so are you going to create a new WhatsApp group that we
Yeah, a new WhatsApp group for all the task forces and people who want to know what you're doing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So thank you for those questions. Yeah. Tammy.
Yeah. You're muted, Tammy.
Oh, sorry. I'm having work done in the other room, so I'm trying to bridge that gap here. There's so many WhatsApp groups, and where I get bogged down is it's like I almost want to see a chart because I'm more new to all of this than I think the rest of you. But I'd love to understand, like, so there's so many chapters around the world of ESRAG. That's the first thing. Like, what are the formal chapters? And then there's plastic solutions there's task forces. So I'm sure there's so many WhatsApp groups. What's the most prudent way to not just have my notifications or my WhatsApp show that there's 35 things in there that I can't take part in, but I do want to understand the players and who's doing what?
Well, I can't speak for everybody else. I can speak for myself. There are certain WhatsApp groups that I'm in just because I'm communications director, and I just kind of ignore them. I just tap on like, I'm not going to really read that, but I'm not really sorry, guys. But there's some that are like that. But you still, and then there are other ones that are at the top. So that's a bad answer. It's just messy. But what I would suggest, Doug, and we might do this maybe not with your meeting time, but at a different time.
Right.
go through some of the training that we took our new employees through, so that you understand the ESRAG organizational chart
That's what I
and,
like.
and how it fits in with, Chris is going, oh my God, it is fascinating. How it fits into Rotary International, how it fits into the Rotary Foundation, and then the whole, there's this whole ESRAG global work and how it fits in with, so, and then the history. So maybe, Doug, we can do that at a separate time.
I think that's a great idea. Tim, you had your hand up and then we're gonna need to move on, but I just have a couple of clarifications. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that question was directed, but I would say there's 4 epicenters of activity. There's regional chapters listed on esrag.org. There's eco clubs listed on esrag.org. There's task forces listed on esrag.org, and there's initiatives. If you look in those 4 places and find some place where you fit in from a, that's the way to figure out how to spend time, and then migrate towards WhatsApp activities that are tied to those 4 groups is how I would think of individual action immediately.
If
Great,
you want a straight
thanks.
answer, always ask Tim.
Thanks, Lori. Now, just to clarify, you're proposing to do this once a month? Is that right? This would come out once a month or once a week?
The my little newsletter comes out once a week, so people just get a summary of all the meetings that are happening that week.
Meetings. Okay.
Mhm.
Now then,
But you
if
can
people
send
have,
your meetings ahead of time if you want.
okay, so this would be all of the meetings that are happening that particular week.
Yep, yep,
Okay.
Yep.
And then if is there some way if people have like a standing meeting, like our meeting, is the second Thursday? Could
Yep.
that be on there all the time? I mean, could that be could
Yep.
we note that that's a standing meeting and
yep.
we'll just
I'll just put it in my little chart and I'll just put it on the bottom so that I always remember to put it up, when the week is right.
okay, because I think it is pretty amazing when you see how many meetings are going on in ESRAG every week. So I think it would be really good to be able for us to all at a glance be able to see when particularly when the other task forces are meeting. That would be wonderful. So thank you, Lori. That's a great suggestion. And so let's again, so that we can get through all of our task forces updates, let's try to start moving on. We again, as I mentioned, I do this alphabetically. So let's talk. David, do you have an update for the Clean Cooking Task Force? David's the co-chair of Clean Cooking.
Thanks, Doug. Just really quickly, Maya working on the in Uganda on mud stoves, and literally she has thousands of those built over there, and she reports that the women are extremely happy with that. I talked with Roger actually this morning. Roger Haynes is solar cookers in San Diego, and he was going to be doing this project in Kikuma refugee camp in Kenya and setting up 5,000 solar cookers over there. And he's had some bad reports from the government of of Kenya. And one of the things that they're charging a 25% tax on carbon credits. And they're also requiring additional reports that normally would be made. They're requiring these. And if they aren't on time, or if you make an estimate of your profits and you're low on your profits, you can be convicted of a crime over there. So it's really not looking good. And Roger is going to probably pull out of that project because working in Kenya is not very enticing right now. Doug Thompson and myself, we're doing a project in Nicaragua with the clean cooking stoves. And we started that about the actual building of these stoves about a year ago and aiming for 200 initially, and 170 of them have been built. Now we're going on to phase 2. We want an additional 300 stoves to be built over there. So our fundraising campaign is going to be beginning. And just one other thing really quickly, it's not relating to our task force per se, Doug, but we've been meeting with the experts at the university here. There's some Canada-wide experts on resilient housing and the effect of climate change. and also with the Department of Geography and Environment. And we're looking at setting up a symposium here in London so that we can make the public aware of these things that they need to consider with climate change, with rain and with heat, fire, et cetera, and also make Rotarians aware of this as well. So that's something that's going to be happening. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I did forget to make one announcement to all of the task forces, and that is that, as you know, we've consolidated your reports on this meeting as well as the monthly board of director reports. And so those reports are due tomorrow. And if you have a report that you've used today, you can use that for the same thing. These are reports for February, where we're asked by the ESRAG board of directors to submit an overall task force report for all of the task forces each month. And the board meeting is on the third Tuesday of the month. And our meeting is on the third Tuesday. Our meeting is on the second Thursday. So if you just use your report that you're generating for this meeting and you send that to me either tonight or by tomorrow, I consolidate those reports into one report and then send them to Denise, our board secretary, and she uploads them over the weekend so that the board members they're up there for the board meeting on Tuesday. So if I get a task force, I'll send it in. If I get a report, if I don't, no, I don't. So Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Doug. This might be a good time to suggest a notion to our ESRAG board members who are on the call. Several boards that I have served on, both in and out of Rotary, ask each board member to be either a member or a liaison from a subcommittee or a group. And I just wondered if it might be worth discussing on the ESRAG board if each board member would either be a member of our task forces or correspond in some way, read the minutes, stay in communication with task force chairs and that sort of thing to kind of facilitate communication and understanding between the task forces and the board about these issues, either in addition to or in lieu of kind of written reports submitted on a regular basis. So just a thought to kind of help us stay all on the same page.
Great idea, I think. Yes. Thank you. Okay, moving along, Amelie is the co-chair of our food waste task force. You have an update?
Yes, hello. Not much this month, besides launch out of landfill still going on very strongly in Maryland and starting well in New Hampshire. Our next meeting is going to be next Tuesday, usual time, and I can share that with whoever wants to join. That will be it for me for this week. Thank you.
Okay, well, I do have to mention that, we just had the Avika speak to the project seminar last on Wednesday. It was just a fabulous presentation. This is a young 18-year-old interactor who has started a program called Compostology in her high school, working with Joe Richardson in lunch out of landfills. And she's just really an inspiring young woman. And she was one of the 12 Rotaractors from all over the world that was selected to go to COP28. And she made a presentation there. So it's really great to see these young people stepping up to the plate and doing really great things. Whoops, what did I do there? I just lost everyone. Can you all still see me? I just lost you all. Okay. Scott, Plant Rich Diet Task Force. Are you there? I saw you earlier.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Great.
Permission to share my screen, sir.
Please.
Okay. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, these are just kind of notes to Scott and to the group here. So The Plant-Rich Diet Task Force meets twice per month currently. Our next meeting is next week. Due to the time change, we change our time here, but the rest of the world doesn't. So our meeting time in Michigan and in the States changed. This is just a reminder. I mentioned this last week or last meeting, I think, that Earth has surpassed 1.5 degrees of warming over the last 12 months. So we passed that threshold. We'll see, whether we remain there, ahead of the 2030s that was predicted that would happen. And the list that I have here, really is all of us. We are working. These are all in the top 10 solutions. So this is really a great group here. Something that's happening locally, but I think everybody should know about. I have a book reading club that I've convened. The book is How Not to Age. This is in a trilogy of How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, and now How Not to Age with Michael Greger, who has a website called nutritionfacts.org. The group is sponsored by Washtenaw Optimal Wellness. That's our county. And they propose to educate the county on the Blue Zone's life extending methodology. What really struck me as I was reading the book, the subtitle of the book is The Scientific Approach to Getting Healthier as You Get Older. What really struck me in the second chapter of the book is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded a study called the Global Burden of Disease, comprised of 500 researchers and 100,000 data sources. And what's identified there is that diet is the key. The plant-rich diets are the most important modifiable lifestyle factor pertaining to aging, lifespan, and health span. I would encourage everybody to get the book and read it. It comprises the last 20 years of research on aging. Our task force speaks. So if you want me or a task force member to come and speak to your club, I recently spoke to Liz Henke's Green Team, which is a subgroup of her Rotary Club. I also spoke at a garden club that I belong to here in my area here, South Lyon, Michigan, and that was a really engaging experience. This last Sunday, there was an A20 second annual teach-in. A2 means Ann Arbor. It's in Ann Arbor, Michigan here. They've had this symposium. We had keynotes from U.S. Congressperson Debbie Dingell, and Missy Stultz actually is a Rotary member in one of the Ann Arbor clubs and the Sustainability and Innovations Director for the City of Ann Arbor. This was a really cool event. They've actually written into their plan not only solar energy, but planting trees, and they've identified reducing food waste and plant-rich diets as top solutions that the city wants to engender in any way they can. There was a group of high school students there, 11 of them, from a little group from Ann Arbor Public Schools called the Freeman Environmental Education Center. I passed out our position paper and our invitation to the 15-day plant-rich diet challenge to all of those students, as well as a lot of other people that attended the group. The people from the Argus Farm Stop, I mentioned this last month, were there and they made a presentation. They're going to present to our Rotary Club on March 11th. And we're considering to take out a district grant to support their work. It's a really open source. I mention this again because people can adopt this anywhere in the United States, an open source way to encourage local farming and the economics of it. I met a guy there from the New Roots Institute. This is a group that's growing and they educate kids at the high school and college level about animal factory farming and the value of plant-rich diets. I had a conversation with a representative who I met at this teach-in. I had a conversation with him this morning, and he is going to come and present, just acquaint us with his group at our meeting next week. And finally, here's some current events that the task force is involved with. The top item is just someone who has spoken to our group before, but it's a group that I think has a key inroad into universities. They're working up in Canada right now, Eleanor Carrera, plant-based universities. So it's largely a student-led group trying to get universities to steer over toward plant-rich diets. We are gearing up for our next, the 4th annual 15-day plant-rich diet task force, and it approximates Earth Day, so an Earth Day launch. We recently had social media training. We're going to have at least 4 sessions from Bianca Polak, who is our task force member in Singapore, and she's a specialist in social media, just to help us to up our game in social media engagement for the task force. We are sponsoring a project seminar on June the 12th, and the title, that's the Wednesday one that Doug just mentioned, and that's plant-based eating for beginners. Coming up at RICON, there's a new fellowship called the Vegan Fellowship. There's going to be a booth there, and it turns out to be a good home for those who are, Rotarians who think of themselves as vegan, which is a slightly different designation from simply plant-rich. And so there will be a booth there. I'm planning to go to, I have my plane reservations for Singapore, so I plan on being there. And then we understand that the ESRAG booth will have a folder where we can have a 2-page spread of each task force. So we have a draft of that's nearly complete for our presentation in that folder. And with that, Doug, I rest my case.
Okay, so want to stop share, please?
Yep, I will do that.
Great, thank you, Scott. And I did want to just mention that on Earth Day, that is our 4th annual Plant-Rich Diet Challenge that will be happening. And you can sign up for that on ESRAG.org. And maybe Chris or Scott could drop a link to sign up for that challenge in the chat. Okay, thanks for that great report, guys. And then moving on, we have Tammy. Would you like to give a report on plastic solutions? You're muted.
Yep. Hi. Yes, I would say that predominantly a lot of the time that I spend is basically gathering. I'm gathering the wings. Plastic Solutions has been leadership, has had a void here for like the last 9 months. So I'm new to the leadership position. And so right now I'm just trying to organize and reinvigorate the process of getting people back involved with the task force. We have been in discussions that continue about how to integrate end plastic soup under the ESRAG banner, in hope that we can combine efforts with them, because that seems like it would be a good fit. In February, we reinstated the Plastic Cafe, which was great. We had people from 2 regions in Uganda, Bangladesh, Panama, Indonesia, Italy, and both coasts of the United States. So that was a really encouraging turnout. And the resounding theme that kept coming up is that kids are our future, and the need to exercise resources and materials to educate them about plastic pollution. And of course, it can be climate as well. But no one should have to reinvent the wheel, and there's a lot of educational materials out there. And I did find one. I can't, I think it actually came out of this group last time, but I sent it to the person in Bangladesh and said, this is great. And it's, can I translate it? And that's what we want to get, is just people translating good material into their own language. I put together a plastic overview presentation, and all that, and that's completed, and it will be continually evolving, of course, because every day in the news is new news about health implications of plastic, and just there's so much to keep wrapping my head around. But the title of it is Plastic, the Health and Global Impact. And today, to date, the presentations have included Los Altos Rotary, where I live, Palo Alto Rotary, San Francisco Golden Gate Breakfast Club, Cannery Row Rotary Club, which was just this morning, and Palo Alto University Rotary Club, which will be tomorrow. So I just keep churning them out, which is good, but there's over 44,000 chapters in the world. I don't think I can handle them myself. So I want to recruit other people to be able to give these presentations, or at least release it on Instagram and maybe do a podcast. Our Instagram account has grown to over 1,200 members, and looking through the followers, it's refreshing because many of them are Rotaract and Interact groups, and as well as Rotary clubs. So, you know, many people talk about bragging rights of how many followers they have. I'm more impressed that we have that 1,200 represents a far greater outreach. My priority is, I said, to reinvigorate plastic solutions with a team during targeted projects. So I would ask you all, if you have people who you know would really like to be involved with plastic solutions, please let me know. I do have someone now doing specifically social media. Lori Cloutier, who is our leader, who I want to slowly get back into the fold from things in her life that have happened, but she's going to take over researching innovations in plastic solutions. But I'm looking for someone who would coordinate education, legislation, the legal ramifications, which I think will be like dominoes falling here, I hope, in the next couple years, and also compiling the latest in medical stuff, because, you know, recent reports I continue to stumble on, and I think it'd be great if we had a consolidation of them and someone to report back to our group on those. So these will all feed the newsletter, articles, and social media. And as I mentioned earlier to Lori, I know ESRAG has several chapters around the world, and each should have a plastic solutions representative in those chapters. And so I would love help with that. And finally, I recognize that a primary role of a task force person is to identify projects, and I'm noodling 2 of them. One in Bangladesh and one in Uganda. So Felix, you're on the call. I think there was some outreach that wanted to happen with you to with Isaac and the Naka Valley refugee camp. So that's what I'm working on so far.
Great, fabulous. Elon, you had a question or a comment? You're muted.
Yeah, hi. I'm here actually on behalf of the new task force, the atmospheric restoration, but we also are doing plastic cleanup projects in Israel. And so I was wondering in what way, you know, do these things connect? Can we have somebody maybe from our team to be on the ESRAG Plastic Solution Task Force, or maybe Tammy, we
Absolutely.
should maybe take this conversation offline.
I would absolutely love that. And what I love too is just, I love the that it's another country. And so all of that is great. And are you the person who just posted that that you live in Los Altos?
No, that's Peter, my partner. But I'm working with Peter. I'm based in Israel. I
Oh,
used
okay.
to live in California, but now I'm in Israel.
Okay, well, I'm in Los Altos as well, so that would be an easy
Oh,
connection.
okay. Good. So maybe
So
I'll
maybe
send
you
you
all could
Yeah, send your
Yeah,
private
drop,
message.
drop
and
your
we'll see.
emails in the chat and you guys can connect offline.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
email is in there. But so good.
Fabulous. That's great. That's what I really love about these all task force meetings, is where we see this interconnection and the sharing of ideas and working together between the task forces, because we're all really working toward the same goal when you get right down to it. So thank you, Tammy. That was a great report, and thank you for taking the initiative to take over this task force. It's really wonderful that you stepped up and done that. So thank you so much. And let's move on now to pollinators and Chris Stein.
Thanks, Doug. Hello, everyone. So late last year, the Pollinator Task Force, we applied for an Earthshot prize, but we were told that we needed to do some work on it before it would be submitted again. So Malcolm Rooney from ESRAG, he said, you know what you need, Chris, is you need a video. And so we decided the ESRAG Pollinator Task Force decided to create our own production company. And we did a little video. Just between you and me, internally, we call this production company the What You See Is What You Get production company. But I would like to spend my 5 minutes of fame. If Doug, if you could show the YouTube to everybody, I'd appreciate it.
Great. We will try.
And I have more, if we have time afterwards, I have more to report, but I really want you to see the video.
Hello. We're here to tell you about Operation Pollination. But let me ask you a question. Do you like to eat?
I do like to eat. If you like to eat too, then we have a low-cost, easy to implement, and meaningful environmental framework for your district and club.
The framework is Operation Pollination, which is an ESRAG initiative. ESRAG is Rotary's Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group.
The objective of Operation Pollination is to protect pollinators throughout the globe. Population of insects is dropping dramatically, and we need to take action.
Operation Pollination can be done anywhere in the world, and it follows the Rotary four-way test.
Insects have been called the little things that run the world, and they truly are.
Insect pollinators are responsible for the success of more than 85% of the plant species on our planet, including much of the food we eat.
Did you say 85%? That's a lot of green.
Scientific data tells us that across the globe, in the last 50 years, insect populations have declined more than 40%.
If this downward trend continues, Earth will not be able to sustain people or any living thing as we know it today.
Earth won't be the healthy place that we want our children or our children's children to inherit. Please join Operation Pollination.
To get involved with Operation Pollination, you first sign online unless you want to hold an in-person signing ceremony with a real piece of paper, which people often do want for publicity purposes.
Simply go to ESRAG, ESRAG.org/operation-pollination. Your district governor signs the non-binding pollinator resolution found there that says,
insect pollinators are essential for life on Earth.
That insects are in decline around the world.
And Rotary is a take action organization that can actually do something about it.
Next, your club president signs a simple pledge that states what your club plans to do to protect pollinators, like
collaborate with community partners to plant flowers at their sites, or
hand out seed packets to kids in school, or
plant flowers for pollination and save bees, or
help other organizations restore land, or
plant
plant a pollinator garden. Or,
When possible, please plant native plants for native pollinators. Or,
join a pollinator organization. Or,
Consider reducing or stopping use altogether of harmful insecticides. Or,
plan a community event to celebrate pollinators. Or,
ask an artist to paint the pollinator mural on a community building just to educate people. Or,
you can look up on the web a list of other easy-to-do pollinator project ideas.
Please consider joining this growing worldwide Rotary Pollinator movement today. Simply go to the ESRAG, ESRAG.org/operation-pollination website today.
I do like to eat, and I bet you do too.
As anthropologist Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in case you're wondering, I'm just like you. I like to eat too. So thank you for considering Operation Pollination as a low-cost, easy to implement, but high-impact project framework for you.
Thank you. Appreciate
That's
you
great.
showing that. If you had let it run, it would have given the credits of the people who appeared in the film and shown you the Rotary districts they're from. It also says that this is an ESRAG Pollinator Task Force production video, and please join ESRAG. So that's how it ends. The other things.
That's great, Chris. Thank you. But you know, your video's 4 minutes and your credits are a minute and a half, and we're a little bit short on time. So sorry
Absolutely.
about that.
No problem. No problem. The other things I just wanted to tell you is that, well, Operation Pollination is a little different from the other task forces, and you guys kind of embarrass me by the amount of times we meet, because we hardly meet at all, but we do get things done. William Dent from the Monarch Sister Schools program, which is part of the task force, recently they hosted Rotary International President Gordon McAnally in District 7620 in Washington, D.C., and Gordon McAnally signed a pollinator resolution. Recently, Tim Connors and I were at PETS for a couple of districts in Minnesota. We were promoting ESRAG and also pollinator conservation I was promoting. We had very little traffic. I found it pretty disappointing. Tim can speak for himself on that one. We're having an Earth Day Operation Pollination signing event with 11 organizations around Earth Day. Pascal Kitty from our project called Buy Flowers and Save Bees, he shared with me recently how a school in Normandy, France, has now incorporated a honeybee into their logo. I put this in the task force report, Doug, that you have. And I also included in my report the numbers of the 70 districts around the world that have signed on to Operation Pollination. And I was happy yesterday that an article I wrote for a blog post has been accepted. So they're going to have that in the Rotary blog. And that's it.
Great. Thank you. It's a wonderful video, Chris. I think all of our task forces really should have something like that. It's a very short, quick, very professionally produced presentation on what you are. I mean, to be able to communicate your worldwide message in 4 minutes was just really spectacular. So thank you.
Oh, I forgot to tell you that our student advisor, Sanvi from Frisco, Texas, Sanvi Sita Malabarapu, she is 16 years old, and she did the film editing.
Wow. That's what we need in our task forces, is more young people. Yes, David. Yep.
Doug, are there any resources at ESRAG to help us do something like that if we don't have that?
That's a wonderful question. I think we need to take that offline with Tim and Lori because I absolutely agree with you. You know, we can't expect all of the task forces to have that kind of professional production capability, and that should be something that would be a really wonderful asset if the communications team could provide that. So maybe we can organize a meeting on that offline a little later. But thank you for that suggestion. I think that's really excellent. So, and now we're going to move on to renewable energy. Tim?
Yeah, and as it turns out, I got home in time to put the presentation up, Doug. Just building on Chris's comments. Yeah, that PEP or the president's thing kind of was a waste of time. So think about, as we reach out, we got to look at each opportunity and figure out when there's an opportunity to really have an impact. So I'm going to talk about Renewable Energy Task Force first before I go through the PowerPoint. I do want to give credit to what's going on with Habitat Solar. We continue to build momentum on the backs of being able to put solar panels on Habitat homes throughout the world. Today, I'm going to talk mostly about the Million Solar Panel Challenge. This was an initiative that was, from an idea standpoint, started on the backs of thinking about what happened with Million Trees. Rotary actually planted 4 million trees, not 1 million, on the backs of somebody saying, let's plant 1 million trees. This particular program is attempting to kind of build on that same momentum, the Million Solar Panel Challenge, which, if we accomplish it, would be the equivalent of planting 10 million mature trees and probably 100 million or more seedlings. It saves 3.5 billion in energy costs and will stop 7.5 million tons of carbon. So that's the vision. The vision is to get to 1 million and have that kind of impact. How will we get there? 3 ways. One, we have Rotarians that have installed solar on your homes and businesses. We want to count that towards this 1 million goal. Secondly, install solar for other individuals. Do grants, global grants, other grants, district grants that basically put solar on various types of facilities, things like churches or nonprofits or low-income housing that isn't tied to Habitat. Those are all potentially ways Rotarians can fund and get solar installed. And then finally, donate to a fund at ESRAG that buys solar panels. Are we doing it? It turns out, you know, as we started to spool this thing up, one of our team members found out that there's more than 100 situations where solar has already been installed by Rotarians, more than 100 projects worldwide. So if you're thinking, gosh, this is a great idea to start, no, actually, it's a great idea to join because there's already a bunch of projects that have been done. And we're basically out there trying to figure out where all those projects are and include them in our log. Our log is intended to basically log the 1 million panels. And there's some good reasons to do that logging, and I'll explain that. But first, I just want to say there's those 3 ways to go. You can't yet donate, but we're hopefully going to soon have that capability. So for today, we're in pre-launch. And what I mean by pre-launch is you can't donate. The whole program isn't fully put together, but there is something you can do during pre-launch. During pre-launch, you can log panels that you have put on your home, your business, on your church, that you helped fund or help work on to get installed in some nonprofit somewhere or wherever. The only proviso is that if you made money on the installation of panels, we won't be counting those. But if you gain no benefit from panels that were installed as a result of your lobbying, your time, your treasure, your talent, please include them in this log. Why? Well, you know, so far we've garnered a little bit of interest from Rotary International. To really get to the 1 million panels, we think we got to get Rotary International thinking this is a good idea. And if we show them that we've already done a number of panels, that will help us move Rotary International into a bigger and better support orientation. Where do you log those panels? You click here to esrag.org and you move to the Million Solar Panels Initiative, which is under Initiatives. And there's a button, log your panels. So far, we have logged 7,926 panels that have been installed globally. Look at all those panels on that map. We'd like to get more installed. So again, we can go back to Rotary International and say, this is a great idea. Let's get this program spread across every club everywhere. And as a result, reducing emissions. So that's our focus for today. We will be launching hopefully near term. And when that happens, we'll have the donate button available so that people can donate. And our long-term goal is to go beyond ESRAG launch. Our long-term goal is to get Rotary International to launch a program. And the more momentum we get going as ESRAGers, the quicker hopefully we'll get Rotary International engaged. And with that said, back to you, Doug.
Well
done, Tim.
Thank you. Can you stop share? That's great, Tim. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. So I see that we're really getting close to the top of the hour, and we still have 3 more task forces to go. So just to make everything fair for folks, next month I'm going to reverse the order of our presentation. So the people that are at the end of the presentation today will be the first ones next month. So it's just, we're just growing and we're expanding, and the work that the task force is doing is so interesting and so fabulous that these meetings are, maybe we just need to say, hey, they're going to be an hour and a half long, to get through all of these folks, so we can decide, how best to do that. But if you do need to leave at the top of the hour, feel free to do so. We are recording the meeting, so you can see the rest of the meeting. If you drop me a note, to give you that a copy of the recording. So we will move now into talking about our great new exciting provisional task forces, and we'll move into conserving glacial resources, which is a new task force that's being developed, and Soraya is the chair of that task force. And so please go ahead with your presentation or your discussion, Soraya. Thank you for coming. I know this is not a great time for you, so I really appreciate your commitment to coming to these meetings.
Thank you, Doug, and hello everyone. It's my first time attending these meetings, so I will just give a brief introduction about who I am. So I am Surya. I'm based in India, basically in the North India, very close to the border of India and China, a region called Ladakh. And today I'll be talking briefly about our task force called Conserving Glacial Resources. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah. So So why did we even begin
Soraya,
this
your screen, I'm seeing black. Is anyone else seeing?
I'm seeing black.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
I think I will
we
just
aren't quite.
skip the screen share then. Okay, I will just give without the slideshow. Fine. So why did we even start this task force is because one of the concerning things about the climate change is its impact on glaciers, right? So one of the recent findings is roughly more than half of the world's glaciers are going to disappear by 2100 due to climate change, and we have to do something about it, right? Why? Because there are many villages, many mountain communities which completely depend on glacial water resources and also snowfall. And this means that many of these communities which have a rich heritage behind them, a rich culture behind them, will desertify and disappear in the course of the next few decades. And this is one such community is where I am currently living in, called Ladakh. it has some of the tiniest glaciers in the world. Roughly, the average is around in area of around 5 kilometers square, whereas typically glaciers can go up to 100 kilometers squares. Right, and this is why we thought that we need to begin this task force and also begin a pilot program inside the task force, which is focused on this particular region and focused on a new technology for climate change adaptation. Right, what I'm talking about is a water storage device which is made of ice. And why? Because what is happening in this region, which is completely dependent on glacial meltwater, is their farming and glacial meltwater supply are tied together. And that means that the farming duration is completely determined by how much water the glacial provides and when it provides. And in the last few decades, what we have observed is that the glaciers are, first of all, melting very fast, and that means they are shrinking in area, and that means they are giving lesser and lesser water every year. And also, the time when they give the water is delayed across the year, at least in this part of the world. So instead of giving the water in, let's say, in April or May, they start giving it in June or July. Right, and this means that the duration of farming is roughly reduced by half in these regions. And this is what we are trying to combat against. And how are we doing that is by using the water that is being that is going into the oceans in the winter from these glaciers. Right, and we are tapping this winter water of the glaciers using by constructing ice structures, huge ice structures, at the scale of around millions of liters. Some of the ice structures we have recorded using drone flights to have a volume of around 20 million liters. And this is one such idea of how do we combat against the fast retreating glaciers, right? The other ideas that we have is also how do we, we can reclaim the water that is melting from glaciers, but how do we slow down the retreat of the glacier itself? And for that, we are developing solutions around covering glaciers with fleece covers or artificial snow covers. And this particular pilot project is happening in through our Swiss Rotary partners and led by our other member Felix. And the one I talked about reclaiming the glacial meltwater using ice structures is happening right now in Ladakh. And through our Conserving Glacial Task Force, we are focused more, at least in the first phase in Ladakh, and we are focused on how do we scale up this technology, because this is not a new technology. Around 500 farmers have engaged across 50 villages in this technology across the world. There are instances in Kyrgyzstan, in Chile, in Peru, in Nepal, in Bhutan, and in India, in Ladakh. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to handhold farmers to make this technology kind of easy to build and also to scale it up. And how are we doing that is by including a wide array of sensors into this construction practice. That makes the whole construction process easier, because one of the major hurdles that these farmers face while constructing these structures for their irrigation water need is that the pipelines they use is freezes. And I'm kind of skipping ahead here because I have not described how they in the first place build these structures. So in simple terms, they build these structures by just spraying water using a pipeline and a fountain system. And the water source is usually the glacial stream, or it could even be a spring water source, right? So the water is tapped from a higher location and it is let go of at a lower location. And using the gravitational energy, the whole system runs. So it's almost an energy zero mechanism, right? And how it works is basically the farmers distribute that water that they take out from the glacial stream into tiny droplets using fountain systems. And in the winter conditions of -10 degrees Celsius, these droplets freeze and eventually form these ice reservoirs, right? And what we are trying to do as a task force is to handhold them to prevent any maintenance hurdles. For example, pipeline freezing that happens during their construction, and also to increase their water use efficiency by using weather sensors to time when to spray this water and how much to spray this water. So I will not take much more time. But I would recommend, because I couldn't share the screen, if you want to know more, you could also search ice stupas. It's one version of these ice reservoirs, and you'll find lots of images online on these structures, and then get a better picture. Yeah, Doug, thank you. Yeah, I'll end here.
It was really interesting. Soraya, thank you so much. And it's really encouraging and exciting to see our task forces reaching literally all over the world and into India and the very remote area region of the world that you live in. So we're really looking forward to assisting you in developing this task force and these projects in any way we can. And that's again another one of the wonderful things about this task force is that it's a great way to developed relationships with other members and other clubs in here so that they can help you support your projects. So thank you so much for attending. As I said, I know it's really wasn't a great hour for you. I think it's very late at night, right? And so we'll also, as I said, reverse the order next week so that the people that are at the end now will be going at the beginning, and maybe we'll just move it up to an hour and a half meeting. So the next and the newest proposed task force that we have is the working title is Legacy Carbon Removal. And I'll turn this over to Chuck Tomasali to discuss, tell us about what they would like to do. And we have a couple of other, Elon and Judy online that are also a part of that task force. So it's wonderful to see you all here. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I've been part of this group since early on, but a very intermittent participant in the all task force team. One of the first thing I'd like to do is just acknowledge the great work that all the other task force have been doing over the years, and your commitment to climate restoration and getting that accomplished. I would like to just take a minute to let you know first that we have had meetings since our last email conversation, Doug, and in that meeting we've focused a little clearer on what it is we are, and I think you've seen the name of restoring the atmosphere, which really focuses on what we're up to. So our goal is to restore the atmosphere, to remove to work to an advocacy. I think that's in terms of our task force. The task force is going to be one about advocacy for the removal of carbon and methane from the atmosphere. So that's the focus. That's where we'll be. We're working very closely with and intended to continue working closely with the Climate Restoration Alliance, which I happen to be the ambassador to Rotary for. Elon is one of who's still on the call, and Peter were the co-founders of that. Judy has worked with me in the past on many initiatives, and she's currently in Alaska. So we have two continents. Alaska's still part of our continent, right, Judy? It's quite a ways from away. And so one of the things that we got clear on as a result of Doug's input and questioning about what are we really about was that climate restoration is really the result of three areas of focus. One, which you could identify as mitigation, which many of the projects are on. And Saria, is that how you say your name? His would be an example of adaptation. So there's adaptation, the things we're doing because we got a new climate and we have to deal with it planetarily. And that's adaptation. Mitigation needs whether we're talking about the bees or food waste or all of these things reduce the amounts of emission going into the atmosphere. And the third leg of the stool that holds up climate restoration is restoration of the atmosphere. We need to get the carbon and methane gases out of the atmosphere. And that's really what we're about. Our task force is planning on being about, is advocating for individuals to come together and support that conversation. It's not a big one out in society yet. You know, very few people talk about getting what's already there out. It is mentioned through drawdown, sort of as the balancing point to get to net zero, but we need to go way beyond net zero, and that's what our task forces be about, is to advocate and to also let you know what's being done on a major scale. So that's where we're at. Yes, Ilan, would you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that in addition to advocating, which is what the task force is going to be about, we're also going to actually restore the atmosphere and reduce the CO2 and methane levels back to safe levels. So I'm going to put the link to Peter Fiakovsky's book in the chat. If you want to read about how we're going to do it, you're invited to read the book. Thank you.
And currently I am the ambassador to Rotary International for the Climate Restoration Alliance, and we have launched a global campaign. The global campaign got launched on the 16th of January, and as of last Thursday, well, 1 week ago, we had endorsement from the person from Africa, and that made every continent on the planet has already endorsed, someone in every continent has already endorsed the resolution. We hope that over time we will gain the widespread acceptance and understanding that some of our task force have led the way towards. Congratulations, pollinators. Very well done. That's, if there's any question, I'd be happy to answer them. Cool. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. That's really great. We'll look forward to, learning more about your task force as you're, you develop this and progress. And I do just have to feel that I need to remind you all that, Rotary International's mandate to the Rotary Action Group's primary mandate is to help clubs do projects, so that any of the projects that you can develop that Rotary clubs could do, either, and we work in the task forces in two ways. We take Rotary Club projects that have, like lunch out of landfills, that was developed in a Rotary Club, and then we try to amplify them to the whole world. Or, some of the task forces are actually generating their own projects, like the 15-day Global Plant-Rich Diet Challenge, which the task force initiated, and then that is being spread out to, people all over the world. Over 1,000 people have signed up to take that test, that challenge so far. So we're moving on now to our last, but certainly not our least, new task force, the provisional task force, the agriculture task force with Felix. And again, I know this is not a great time for you, so thank you so much for your indulgence with the time it's taking to get to you here. We really appreciate your commitment to Rotary and the wonderful work that you're doing with ESRAG all over Africa. So can you please give us an update?
Yes, the committee is still in formation. There's much work to be done. Right now, I don't have much to report about other than just the engagements I had, especially at UNEA, where the focus was on soil health. Most of the committee members have been working in the agriculture space for quite a while as professors, also in the government. And so right now we're still in formation as a committee and also on the agenda and objective. And we are basing it much more so on what the UN, some of the declarations have made and some of the resolutions that have been made. So by next week, we should be ready to be able to present to everybody else, even if it's just in a written summary. But each and every single person has a passion. They all been working in the different spaces. But our main focus right now is basically how can we enable the entire agenda as far as what the UN climate is pretty much needs to be able to be focusing on. 28 was when the first declaration was made as far as the sustainable agriculture and also resilient food systems. And also in UNEA 6, the same focus was also placed, but with a special understanding on soil health as a need for each and every single country to place under the NDCs. So by next week, we'll have a write-up that will pretty much give much more information on our trajectory as a task force. So I'm sorry, mine was just brief, but next week we'll be ready for you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That was really great. It's wonderful to have you working with us, and we look forward to that. As I said, so on our meeting next month, you'll be number one on the agenda to start off. So thank you for for staying in there, hanging in there with us. We really appreciate it. Does anyone else have any last minute comments? We are running a little bit over time. Tammy, yes.
I just have a quick thing. My computer died in the middle. Could somebody save the chat, because there's been so many contacts and send it to me. There's
Sure.
like a zillion people in there that I'm like, I want to talk to you about this and you about that. So that would be great. Sorry, when I logged back in, it was all gone.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yes, I can do that because the recording also saves the chat.
Yes.
So I'll send you a copy of that file.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Lori, yes?
Just a question to you, Doug, and you, Tammy. Do you want to stay on for 5 minutes and I'll show you how to use iMember, or would you like to do that at a different time?
I can stay on. I didn't quite hear what you said, but I can stay on for you anytime.
Yes,
I
so
messed
can
up
I.
the meeting by
So can
talking
I.
too much. You can? Okay.
Yes.
So if anyone else wants to know about iMember and bulk emailing people, I can run you through it real quickly.
Great. Well, thank you all for attending. And as they say in our meetings, if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye, everyone.
Wow, thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Tammy and Doug, I have this huge apology for talking too long at the beginning. I thought I should have practiced
about
that.
it.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's
don't
fine.
worry about it. No, it's important. It's important, and it's a very, it's a actually a kind of a little bit of a controversial topic because there's so much going on in ESRAG, and I really appreciate your ability to try to help us consolidate all of that information.
Oh, well, I don't know. You know, most of it, Tim's online. I get all wound up, and then I call him and he's like, you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. You know, and so the communications team, wouldn't you say we're pretty darn stellar? Tim?
Sorry, I was starting to go through email, waiting until you were done talking to Tammy about iMember. What were you saying?
You're just saying that our communications team is pretty darn stellar. I mean, we really balance out each other's gifts.
Well, it's only stellar because of your contributions. You are the rock
Don't be so full of bullshit. You have so much bullshit you could turn into a compost and grow great tomatoes. I'm just saying.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Hey, Lori, you can look straight forward. You're looking to the side. Are you looking
I
into the
am looking to
camera?
the side on purpose because I'm getting iMembers up and I'm getting ready to share screen. So that is on purpose.
Why don't you focus
Excuse me,
on that,
let me
Tammy?
stop.